Welcome back to Stay in Your Lane. I'm your host, John Maley, brought to you by Triple T Transport. Got our insurance ladies back again. Enjoyed you very much on the first one. Want to continue and piggyback off of where we left off. You guys are a real provider for us, and you understand the industry that is very niche oriented. Contingent cargo insurance, there aren't a lot of people providing the level of coverage that we're looking for, and that are providers that are going to bring the value that we're looking for also. So kudos to you for being what we're looking for on a regular basis. We appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you. Absolutely.
My questions for you are, what changes have you seen, Jodie, pre-COVID, through COVID to now? What would you say is the change that you're seeing in the industry that is most noticeable?
Most noticeable for me has been the uptick in contingent auto claims or auto liability claims. We are seeing many more freight brokers being named in lawsuits where they hire the motor carrier is involved in an accident, and someone is either terribly injured or the result is a death. I would say since post-COVID, myself, my personal customers, I've probably have 5 right now that are named in a lawsuit.
Well, thank goodness we're not one of them.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. We want to keep it that way.
Well, I think, we vet our carriers at a high level.
Right.
Which I think is the first step. We all know accidents are going to happen.
Yeah.
To have it become the norm, it sounds like for the brokers to be brought in from a legal perspective and named, that tells me that there's probably a revenue surge that's going on.
Well, absolutely. And I think too, as your business grows, you become a target, you're a deep pocket, because people are looking at this as an insurance policy, hopefully is behind you and will hopefully, pay out. But, I want to say, you had mentioned your vetting process, and I think that is, the first step at hopefully avoiding, the lawsuit going anywhere, is having a consistent vetting process for your carriers, and that's a great first protection. And then of course the second thing would be to make sure you've got a really good contingent auto liability policy that's going to provide good legal defense for you, and because the goal is to get the case dismissed against you and really put some separation between you and that motor carrier.
Well, it's always a difficult scenario when you're in the middle.
Yep.
We're in the middle, right?
Yeah.
We want to bring to all of our clientele, and we do, an added layer of reliability. That if there is an issue, that not only have they chosen the right provider in Triple T to do business with, that we have our ducks in a row from a contingent perspective if that happens. I think in any scenario, accidents are going to happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep,
absolutely.
You're going to have them.
Accidents are going to happen. Like Lisa said, to have those consistent vetting procedures in place is your first layer of protection. And then your second layer is to have a policy that will respond when you need it to respond and in the way you need it to respond, like in defense.
Right. And then I think on the contingent cargo side, it's the same thing. The hope is that the carrier's motor truck cargo policy is going to respond. But
first,
there's no way for you to know. I mean, you may get a certificate from them showing that the carrier's got a $100,000 limit, but there is no way for any broker to take the time to read every single insurance policy that your pool of carriers has. They've got exclusions, commodity exclusions, sub-limits, warranties in there that, may end up in a denied claim. Your customer is going to be looking to you to pay for that loss. So
Right. Well,
Important to
cheap
have that.
insurance we can't afford. We just can't afford cheap insurance. That's what it comes down to.
Well, that's very well said.
Yes.
You know, if you need it, something's unfortunate has happened, and you're going to need it for a reason. So,
Absolutely.
from a vetting process, you know, we're bringing that layer of liability protection to our shippers, okay? Because they'll get named in it also.
They could get
Possibly.
named. We have seen that where like especially on the third party liability claims. So that's going to be third party property damage, you know, a trucker hits an overpass and there's damage to, you know, a bridge, or the bodily injury and death claims that Jodie was speaking about. We have seen those claims go all the way back to the shipper, and sometimes they do. And again, sometimes they're just looking for a deep pocket, and it's just throwing stuff at the wall to see what's going to stick.
What sticks? Yeah.
We know that when things slow down a little bit from an economy perspective and a volume perspective, as we, you know, are navigating into the full, I would say, the bottom of the recession that we all knew was coming since COVID. Are you seeing an increase in claims since then, percentage-wise, or are you seeing something different?
No, I would say there is an increase, especially in theft claims. I've been getting a lot of calls from freight brokers, you know, trying to get some advice on mitigating claims. It's definitely, there's an uptick all around. Cargo claims, contingent auto claims, I would agree.
Dishonest acts of the carrier, you know, where the carrier, or one of their employees or the driver is sort of complicit in, you know, organizing the theft. And that, you know, that's a coverage that all freight brokers should make sure that they have in their contingent cargo policy. Traditionally, dishonest acts of the carrier that then lead to a loss to cargo are excluded. The thought being that, you know, if you're hiring this carrier, you should be hiring someone that, you know, doesn't have employees or drivers that are going to be, you know, prone to stealing the load. But I mean, it happens, and, you know, the fictitious pickups, et cetera. So we are seeing sort of an uptick there as well.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, you're getting into areas that I'm fortunate. I have not had shipments stolen, and we do thousands and thousands and thousands. I personally have not dealt with a shipment being stolen.
That's good to hear, but I think that, you know, that speaks to, you know, the way that you vet your carriers and just, you know, your business model of, you know, keeping the circle tight.
Well, I think you have to. I think that, you know, the 80-20 rule of business applies to our model, as 80% of our freight's probably hauled by the top 20% of our carrier base. Mm-hmm. As things kind of slow down, shippers per se and people from all sides of our business have more time to look back at what's going on. Where I think throughout the COVID years, you know, the false kind of economy, everyone was doing all they could just to get stuff in and out of doors. Right. Now they've got time to actually do the inspection part of it a little closer.
Right.
So, well, we hope that's happening, because that'll bode well for all of us, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're the end user, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. We were seeing a lot of extraordinary shipper requirements as far as insurance coverages go, really high limits that they were expecting our freight brokers to carry, which, you know, in turn costs our freight brokers a lot of money, you know, to try and provide or to try and have and keep in place these really high insurance limits. You know, typically our freight brokers have $100,000 in contingent motor truck cargo, $1 million in contingent auto liability. we were seeing contracts where shippers were asking for 5 million in contingent auto, 10 million in contingent auto.
Right.
The contingent motor truck cargo limits were in excess of 250,000. So that's I'm sorry to have kind of go back to the beginning of the conversation, but that was something else we were really seeing a lot of as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're seeing that all over the country, and it's been a real problem because those limits, I mean, like we said before, there are a limited number of insurance markets that have good programs for your particular industry. And there's just not a lot of capacity out there to provide those type of limits. It can happen, but again, I think this goes back to being able to walk away from that, because it is very cost prohibitive to carry limits like that, especially if it's just being driven by one particular contract. But again, working with an insurance agent that knows, I mean, we have a database of contracts that we see over and over again. And sometimes the shippers aren't willing, to negotiate it all, but sometimes, if we can get in there and talk to the shipper on the freight broker's behalf and say, this is what we're seeing. This isn't, possible to, get these limits, and really kind of talk, what is your concern, especially when the limits on the cargo side are so high when the load value, it makes no sense that, that limit would be needed. So very frustrating, I know, for the freight brokers.
I mean, I think that the industry's been at 100,000 for quite a while now.
Yeah.
When we look at inflation, a lot of shipments that weren't near 100,000 are now at 100,000 or more.
Yeah.
Which is different, I mean, and who saw that coming that fast?
Well, true. And especially in the reefer space too. But I will say, the school of thought, I think, with some people is, well, maybe I carry the higher limit and I can attract more business. But, it's a double-edged sword, because once you have the limit, you can also be a target. So it's this delicate balance that I think, again, now that hopefully life is going back to a little bit more normal, that those thoughtful conversations can happen, between the freight broker, their eager salespeople, and then the insurance agent, to figure out, what's the best limit for our organization? What's going to serve us well to promote new sales, to retain customers that we want, but to also keep in mind, we want to protect our organization as well.
Just like Avalon, most value.
Most value.
Most value. There it is. It's how we operate. I think it's who we are as people. I think we feel that we need to bring value to everybody that we work with.
Absolutely. And, I know I say this to, our salespeople and our sales managers out there, are constantly saying that it's okay to say, what, I don't think Avalon's going to be a fit for you. We want to make sure it works both ways. Otherwise, our client's not happy, and we don't feel, or we may not feel like we're providing value.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think you have to know when to say, what, this isn't a fit.
Yeah, it's not a fit.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not a fit.
Yeah.
But you guys are definitely a great fit. I appreciate you very much.
Well, and we think you are too, so we appreciate your business.
We'd love to leave the door open for another episode in the future as we could.
Absolutely. We would love to come and
stabilize.
talk more insurance.
Isn't it riveting? It's riveting.
It's riveting.
Yeah.
Riveting. All right. Well, ladies, thank you so much. Thanks for being on.
Thank you for
Appreciate the
having us,
time.
John. We appreciate it.
Very, very much. You guys take care and have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank
You do the same. Thank you.
Bye-bye.